we are back with, well, more news. I've already done a VOD where I reacted to similar content like this, but this is more on Asmongold's take on it. I will 100% say I don't agree with a lot of what he's saying, but I do agree with the base point that it should be stopped before it begins. So let's get into it.
Hi guys, it's me again, and today we're going to talk about the parasite that is payment processors, primarily Visa and MasterCard, in between their very busy schedule of scamming random financially illiterate people into contracts with credit cards that have 30% interest. They've somehow also managed to fuck up the internet at the same time. So recently there's been a group called Collective Shout, which is, I know this might surprise you.
So that's the name of the group. I was curious what their name actually was, because I heard that they were a group from Australia, and it's a group of, well, a lot of people are calling them Karens, and maybe some Kevins, who knows, but they are actively trying to use card companies now and weaponizing them to take down what they don't like. Now, while I do agree that porn games in general on Steam cannot be fully controlled, because no matter what, a 13-year-old, a young kid's going to find a way to create an account on Valve and within Steam, or any platform for that matter, and be able to say that they're 18 years of age. It's as simple as that. Because some don't ask for ID verification. They just let them post it and get in there. And then they can download any content they want. And this comes down to three things for me. One, it's the parenting. Parents have to take a more active role in trying to, well, police their own children. And some just want to put them in front of a tablet and call it a day. Two, it comes down to the fact that these card companies shouldn't be allowed to instigate these kinds of processes if they're not already part of their original policies. Now, I completely understand the card companies are used by millions of small businesses, large corporations, and across the entire world. However, they have to police who they're signing contracts with better. Because based on what we know, the reason why they went after Valve and Steam, same company by the way, Valve owns Steam, it's just their platform. So Steam's the platform, Valve's the company, is because they quite literally had those porn games on there, and the card companies were notified of this by the group that Asmongold just mentioned, and as simple as it gets, they use that to take them down. So as I said, number two is the card companies policing the contracts and making sure that they're enforced. Because as I understand it, in their policies, they will not support this kind of stuff. So it's as simple as that. Now, my question is, are Visa and MasterCard used on places like Pornhub for membership or other places? Because I believe they might be, which would bring into question why they would allow that. So we're getting into a lot of strange things, but I think part of the reason was because there's incest games, so it was a broad spectrum that they were targeting. And the third reason, a group of people who probably either have kids or don't have kids, we don't know each member of their group, should not be allowed to be empowered to take down whatever they want because of how they feel. We're living in an age where the entire internet, for the most part, is full of mentally deranged individuals, where they are quite literally using the internet to empower their movements. And we as a regular society now have to cater to them. We're catering to them. We cater to a lot of them. And the problem with the catering is that by catering to them and empowering them further, they think that the world's going to go along with their madness. And so far it has. You've seen it when you get people that have mental conditions that are online screaming at the top of their lungs for something to be taken down, and majority of the time it gets taken down. The majority of these mentally deranged people don't actually back down until someone that they've gone after quite literally sues them, as in the J.K. Rowling incident with a tweet with a guy who liked to tweet about her, calling her all kinds of things. And she finally, after a year and a half of back and forth banter with this said gentleman, decided, oh, well, I gave you an opportunity, and since you don't want to, let's go ahead and try this in court. And she did, and he proceeded to take down all his posts and issue a public apology. See, nothing gets done until they're targeted, such as H3H3 going after a bunch of moderators because of their threats. And let me be clear, I don't believe H3H3 would have pursued this lawsuit if one thing was left alone: his kids, his wife. When you send a human skull to the actual house and then also have people threaten online to, well, remove your children from this world, that's going to instigate a parent who has means and has will to get this kind of stuff done. People need to understand, we live in a society of mentally deranged individuals who like to take advantage of the system that they've been given to say whatever they want, do whatever they want. And it's sad. We shouldn't have to live like that.
A militant group of obnoxious Karens from, I believe, Australia, but let's be honest, it's going to be all over the world, that have gotten together to bully and attack Visa and MasterCard into refusing service with Steam and pressuring Steam to remove certain games off of Steam because these games hurt their feelings.
I want to be clear. Based on all the evidence we've seen, based on everything we've heard, at least if you've been watching videos and seeing this, there is in no way any indication that they bullied the card companies. They sent them emails, they sent them notices, and they told them about what's being said to them, but I don't think the card companies cared about those, about the tweeters who are threatening the people that are doing this. I think the card companies had policies in place already involving the use of child you-know-what and incest being on this particular platform, Steam, and then those policies were enforced. That's what they did. They were informed of them. And I don't think Visa and MasterCard are obviously doing a good job of policing their own network, who they provide their services for. And they probably already have, as I've said before, pre-existing policies that were in place that they didn't allow this stuff. But they don't police every platform, every company that uses their services. So until they are told about it, they're not going to enforce it within their contract. And I'm sure as heck, I feel like I should go with this hill and not climb down it. I'm going to stick to the hill that the car companies had to have policies in place already. And they just didn't know Steam had this stuff, and that's why they went after it. Now, to be very, very clear, that's just what my opinion is. I don't know if it's fact or fiction. Maybe they changed their policies at the last second, which would make them very, very, very disgusting for a company to do, just so they can enforce that, which means they were trying to help the Karen group out, and that would suck. But I'm still going to go with they were already pre-existing in their policies. That's just me.
Oh no, it's an incest game. Oh no, it's a fucking not safe for work game. It's a porn game. Who gives a fuck? Who cares? The thing is that, and this is the big issue that I have, I'm very agitated about this because I see where this is going. It begins with the incest games and it ends with whatever the fuck they want.
Asmongold at this point wasn't aware that this group has had success getting rid of things like this in the past, but they've done it through different means. Their primary target is games that involve explicit exploitation of women in any form. And exploitation is whatever they define it as. But that group has had success in their own country getting rid of games. Like games at Target and a few stores located in that country had to remove games from their shelves that had sexual exploitation of women. They just did. And that's what ended up happening. This group has had success doing this kind of stuff. They find the linchpin they'll do petitions. If that doesn't work, they will voice their opinion through emails. If that doesn't work, then they start looking into the ways to become empowered and utilize it. Now, are they going to be able to get away with this by telling the card company every single time they don't like this game, take it down? No, I don't think that's going to happen. What I think is going to happen is that when they try to do it again, the card company's going to say, not this time. Only because I just don't think they're targeting games in general. They're just targeting things that they already had policies on. They weren't aware of it. They were given notice of it, talked to the platform that has the contract, and said, hey, we can't support your payment processes anymore since you're violating our policies. And this was what we signed at contracts. Because I don't know how often the card companies change their policies, but if I'm right, the porn stuff, that's probably been in their policies for a while. I really feel like that's what's going on. And I like how the pause catches Asmon looking like that.
And so if anybody
pause,
remembers
Ken.
back in the 2000s, if anybody 3,000 years ago, whenever they were talking about how Grand Theft Auto is causing school shootings and these video games are causing this stuff, what's to stop these disgusting fucking annoying Karens from being able to bully these processors into effectively not allowing us to play the video games?
Again, I don't think they bullied them. They sent notices, they informed them, but I think they took advantage of policies that were already in place. I will repeat this until the end of time. And if I'm wrong, I will accept I'm wrong. But I just personally think those were pre-existing policies the car companies enforced with the platform. They don't like it, they didn't want it, and they wanted it off there, or else they weren't going to provide those services anymore because it was a violation of the contract that they probably had in place. I mean, these are simple things. I mean, Valve says they weren't going to fold to that kind of power, but when you have a legally binding contract, and that legally binding contract is being enforced on the end of one of the people who signed it, well, or companies, yes, it's just how it's got to go. They're going to want to enforce it.
That we want, not allowing us to consume the content that we want, and fundamentally, at a very, very basic level, limiting our freedom of expression through effectively looking at the chain, finding the weakest link in the chain, and taking as much advantage of it as possible. And I want to say another thing. Collective Shout and every other Karen Incorporated group, every other bullshit advocacy group that's trying to bully these payment processors, they are the symptom and they are not the disease. Because if you get rid of them, there's just going to be another one that replaces them that does the exact same fucking thing.
Well, we've got groups like that all over the place. And once more, there are points I agree with Asmon on and points I don't agree with him on. I still think that the majority of this is just pre-existing policies that they had in place and that they maintain within their contracts. It has to be. It's hard for me to believe that one group sent them this notice informing them of what was on Steam and they just suddenly went, all right, we're going to obey you ladies and do this. No, I don't think it's that easy. They saw that the policies were in place with the card processors and they just got smart and decided to do it. It's a disgusting type of smart. It's an abuse of the system, but that's what they do. Because I don't think Visa and MasterCard, or PayPal for that matter, police the contracts that they do. They expect, and it's basically what you call a good faith argument. They're hoping that on good faith, you will honor what you've signed. And Steam probably didn't honor that by allowing these types of games on the platform. As a result, they were informed of it. They said, this is in violation of the contract. We need you to take them down. Simple as that. That's how I view it. Now, do I think that companies like this should be able to push around their weight and take down things that they don't like? No. I 100% do not agree with that. So they should never, ever be allowed to do that kind of stuff. I hope that never happens and that becomes a thing. Now, on the days following after this, if they are starting to take down games that we like let me put it like this: if they targeted Elden Ring because it allows you to wear underwear and a bra, and they say this is exploitation of women, and this group then targets Elden Ring and targets the payment processors, tell them to take it down. And the payment processors then proceed to take it down. Then we're going to have a problem. That's going to be a real problem. But until I see that, I'm not going to blow my head up worrying about this being an ongoing thing. This group has been empowered way before they got away with this. They've had success in their own country and across the entire world with taking down things. There's a whole video about it that I already did a VOD that's available on my channel, where Belarus News goes over the whole thing and how this group has had success in the past with taking down games. But they're games specifically targeted at exploiting women, children, and other forms of exploitation. That was their main targeting. Now, I'm going to say this, though. I don't like the group. Because personally, if I'm right, they're probably people that are parents and blame the companies for everything, but refuse to take any accountability to policing their own kids, to making sure they maintain a safe environment. Because the majority of parents I've seen just put a tablet in front of their kid and just go about their day. That's literally all I see nowadays. And it's not something I want to see. But that's the state of where we're at, and that's the state of how it is. When parents want to blame the card companies, they want to blame the TV, they want to blame all the other publishers and developers. It's your fault. My kid did this. It's your fault. It's not their fault for being a poor parent. It's the fault of everyone else. That's usually how it goes. But I will say this. Not all parents are like this. There are good parents who maintain a good, healthy relationship with their kids, but they teach them to understand that these companies and other things are to be avoided. Like, they give them a subtle nuance, they enforce it, maintain it, until their kids are old enough to be able to be allowed on it. That's my personal belief.
The disease is the payment processors and the fact that they can act effectively as a cartel. They have total autonomy to deny service to anybody for any reason. If
he is right, they do reserve that right, but it's only within the contracts that they signed with those businesses, corporations, and platforms like Steam that they're enforcing. Now, I'm pretty sure there's legally binding contracts, and I'm sure that in those contracts, they can't just go, we're changing this policy right now, so you have to accept it. I'm pretty sure with those companies, that doesn't happen. Now, they'll probably increase fees, which is probably something that's in the contract. They have a right to do that. But they do have a monopoly, which is a problem, because they can then set whatever rates they want, because you don't have any other options. They're your only option for payment. I mean, my bank uses MasterCard for their debit cards, so I don't have a choice. I have to use MasterCard. It's the only thing they provide. I mean, I can do back and forth transfers from the bank, but maybe it's provided through MasterCard for the transfers. I mean, it could be provided through Western Union, could be provided through another money order company, anything like that. I mean, the point is, when you have a monopoly, you can do a lot. You can make whatever rates you want because you're the only one they can sign with. You can make whatever things you want because you're the only one they sign with. I mean, out here where I live, there's a single electric company that supports the entire electric for an entire city, and majority up above in a state above it. I mean, they have a monopoly. And then there's some laws in place over here where they literally state, these are laws. Like, our government has better things to do, but they make laws for the companies. So let me put it like this. It's a way of preventing a monopoly, but they haven't prevented the electric company's monopoly. But they're willing to go after the internet providers. AT&T and another cable company, I won't mention by name, but they fight over territory out here, quite literally. So if, let's say the cable company, one of them, for internet is in one area, well, AT&T cannot, based on the zones, go into that area and provide service. If AT&T has service in one area, that the other internet company and cable cannot come out and provide service in that area. You are stuck getting the service from that one company. There are some areas that are not red zoned where you can get both services or choose one. There are other areas within the city limits that prevent you from doing that. The one way to get around this, though, you have to use third-party companies to get service from one of these companies, but it's cheaper. It's an interesting thing that we have going on up here in this city.
If they think that it will affect their brand, well, why don't we go ahead and think about this in any other utility or any other service? Imagine if you can't get electricity because, oh, well, you use that electricity to go on websites that people disagree with or they don't like. And I have no problem with them denying service to something that is illegal, by the way. I think that's totally okay. But whenever these people want to create their own moral...
To be direct, there is a subtle nuance to what he's saying. Our government could make porn illegal, and then Asmon's argument would be applied there as well. But there's something else you need to understand with the situation with these companies and them doing this kind of stuff. We had a situation like this happen. There was a few people who owned Apple. And I believe it was the little AI voice-commanded device. I forget what it's called, but the Apple, I'm not a big Apple products fan, but they started banning people's Apple memberships because of words they heard over those machines they said in their own home. So their home is no longer private, and Apple is quite literally banning their Apple provided services. Amazon did something similar as well, with I believe Siri was its name. But Apple and Amazon have both done this. If they hear you say those words, they can ban you for any racial slurs you say in your own home. If they don't like your cuss words, they'll ban it too, because they can hear it over the device. This happened, and I'm not kidding. This did happen. There were a few small instances. Of course, Apple and Amazon in those instances did re-enable their services because of the large blowback, but they did do it. So it's not impossible that water companies, electric companies, your TV provided services, anything that you pay a service to can deny it, even in the privacy of your own home, if they don't like something you said. They will do this. So it's not too far-fetched for the card companies to do a little bit more if they start disliking games as a whole. That's the problem with the monopoly and not having more options. But you would think you have PayPal, Visa, MasterCard. That's 3 different options. But they all follow the same trajectory because of people at the top who run the companies who are a little bit on the spectrum of politicals going to the far left, and it's not good.
Legality and then use these payment processors as a pseudo-government to enforce it as a pretty much monopoly across the entire internet. That's not a free market, that's a fucking cartel. And I think they need to be regulated. I definitely do. And I think that's the only way that this actually solves itself. Now, obviously, it's great if we had new payment processors come into the space. And I know that a lot of people talk about crypto as a solution to this. I understand that.
There's a lot of available payment processors. The specific ones he's referring to are MasterCard and Visa. PayPal, I don't think, did anything with Valve. Not that I'm aware. If they asked them to take that down. I mean, there's a lot of payment processors out there. It's not about the option. It's about how much availability they have in the world for sending cash and fees across different networks. And Visa and MasterCard would most undoubtedly have the biggest monopoly over that because they're everywhere. You see them everywhere. PayPal's only now just starting to get into being able to make payments with it at gas stations or over your phone. Like they are starting to expand a little bit more, but they're not in every space, not like Visa and MasterCard.
I personally think that you need to have more regulations for financial stuff.
My issue with more regulation. Oh, this is where we really get into it. All right. I want to be clear. I am not a fan of a heavy federal government. I'm not. I don't like being regulated into the ground on everything. I believe state governments should do the regulating within their own states, and federal government should be there just to deal with bigger issues. I mean, here's a good example. Our federal government, back in the early 2000s, back when high definition TV was starting to become a thing, they had enough time to go in when we have 1,000 other problems going on, but they go in and they spent time making a law, a literal law, to enforce high definition television across the country. As in, everyone had to be forcibly upgraded, and you didn't have a choice. I hate that. And it also makes me mad too, because it means our government has the time to enforce a stupid TV law, but they don't have enough time to lower the national debt, which is the biggest ongoing issue we have going on. I mean, they get 100+ days off a year where they literally are not governing. They are just sitting in offices, going on dinner dates, and speaking to their constituents and their sponsors, feeding the narrative. And I don't like it. This is why I am a firm believer in the idea that every single thing should not be regulated. Regulation too much is way too much because it empowers government. So Asmongold's regulation idea I like, but only at the state level. States should be regulating this stuff. They really should.
But that's a different conversation. The one thing that I think we can all agree on is that the current situation is bad. And anyway, so the issue that we have right now is that these payment processors are able to effectively limit our freedom of speech, limit our freedom of expression, tell us what we're allowed to see and what we're not allowed to see on the internet by denying service and refusing to do business with these different companies. Now,
again, and I'll keep reiterating this throughout the video, it's pre-existing policies within a contract. Because legally binding contracts, when they sign these platforms and companies, there's no way for me to believe that the Visa, MasterCard are coming in and changing them every single week. They're not doing that. Now, they do that to customers. They do that to single-digit customers that sign for credit cards. There's no question they do that. They'll change their policies on the fly as much as they feel like. But when it comes to their provided payment services through these companies who are purchasing from them and have to pay their fees, they are signing a contract. And I'm sure there's some negotiation going on with the bigger ones. Some smaller ones are utilizing them. But I just don't believe that this takedown that they did at Valve and with Steam's platform was entirely malicious because of a group of Karens. The group of Karens just gave them the attention of noticing that this platform had those sexually explicit games on there, and they violated the card company's policies. That's my opinion. I believe that's what the case was, and because of their contract, they had to take them down. That's it. I don't think they just saw these emails and looked and were like, oh, sex on this platform, and they want us to take it down. Okay, we will obey you. No, I don't think that's what happened.
You might think that this is freedom of association, and to a certain degree you'd be right, but the problem is that it's not a free market. If it was a free market, you would have some companies that would be willing to do it and some companies that would not. But the issue is because Visa and MasterCard control such a large market share of payment processing market, what that causes is it causes people to be forced effectively into using them as a service. And in the same way that you guys know this, if you live in an area that only has maybe one power service, or you live in an area that only has one internet service.
He's correct on that, because we only have the one electric service out here. We have 2 internet providers, and we have one electric service. So those are monopolies, but they are regulated by the state. Our state doesn't let them get out of control. Not like the issue that happened down in Texas where they got a little bit of snow and their energy bills shot up to thousands and thousands of dollars. And sadly, people did not survive a few inches of snow. in Texas. Boy, oh boy.
Oftentimes that service is either, there are two outcomes, guys. It's either regulated or it's garbage. And sometimes it's both. But I can guarantee you one thing, it's certainly not good.
I'm in favor of state regulation, not federal. Please, just no more federal. So tired of it. Just, they're lazy enough with what they can get away with. By the time they get this passed through, I'd probably be 80 years old. That's the rate at which our federal government and our Senate and our congressmen work. They're so slow. 80 to 90-year-old men and women. We need to term limit senators and congressmen. 4 years, 2 terms, just like the President of the United States. Force them to work in tangent with new people, because newer blood will get a lot more done. It will. You may not like who gets elected. You may not like the policies that they're trying to implement, but you know what? At least change is happening. Be it over radical, be it a little radical, be it revolutionary, be it whatever it needs to be, they would enforce actual change. And that's what I want to see. I want to see us get away from what we've been doing with pandering and just be more active in the space with younger blood in Congress and Senate, passing policies, even if I don't agree with them, because I would just be happy to see some action being done. I don't even know the last time they passed an actual law that was applicable to everybody.
And the fact is that I understand some people might be against regulation, but I've got to tell you, okay, if you're sitting on the internet using your smartphone complaining about regulation, you might as well just be a fish complaining about water. Everything is regulated. Your car is regulated, your phone is regulated, the battery in your phone is regulated.
He's not wrong. Everything is regulated, but I don't want more federal government regulation. I want it to be at the state level, and that's where I want it to stay. It's better. Let me put it in some context. Regulation at the state level means faster change. That's what you're going to get. Because states are much quicker about getting a job done when it comes to their governance with their Senate and their Congress compared to the federal government. Because when the federal government gets together, there's 100+ people in both sides debating over and over about what they don't agree with. The majority of people working within a state, that state is so smaller and condensed, they get it. They know what their state wants. They hear the outcries of their constituents within that state, and they know what they want to see. That's the difference. State faster, federal slow.
The data your phone receives is regulated. Everything in the world is regulated, but we're somehow supposed to think that, oh wow, these billion-dollar companies that, by the way, how the fuck does a credit card company make money? Oh, that's right, by scamming stupid people who don't understand math out of money, writing it off as a loss whenever they don't get the money back, and then being able to...
When I was younger, I did get a credit card, and I made some big oopsies. Not paying attention, not realizing what I was getting myself into. And yeah, took me a couple of years to get out of that debt. But I did. But I'm telling you, man, he's not wrong about those car companies. Do I think they're stupid people? No. I think they're people that have not been informed or taking the time to read. And I was 18 at the time. So I was not very good with the concept of money and regulating myself. Regulating yourself as an individual. This is why I'm strongly in favor of public schools and private schools at the state level being forced to have a home economics class that teaches people about credit cards, mortgages, about balancing a checkbook, about financial responsibility. This is something I'm hugely in favor for. Home economics at the state level that have to teach these kids when they're in high school how to manage their life. Seriously. Just how to manage life. How to do their taxes. How to understand where their taxes are being taken from. What they can do. I mean, if I had known years ago I could do a $5 additional and a $5 additional two $5 additionals on both federal and state, I would. I wish I had known that, because they'll take an additional amount out of your check, and it prevents them from having the no-go to say, oh, well, I, the IRS, say you owe us. No, I don't owe you a jack diddly squat, because I took out $5 additional every single check for the entire year. There's no way you can say I owe you anything. I wish home economics at the public and state, public, private, and state levels were regulated for that, for the kids. Because if the parents aren't going to take responsibility for teaching their kids those kinds of financial and fiscal responsibilities, then give it to the schools that they're paying for, because they have them for 8 hours out of the day. That's my viewpoint on it.
To say that, oh, well, it's okay, we're not going to pay this off as a tax, because guess what? We didn't make any fucking money, because we're signing contracts with massive interest rates to people that are financially illiterate. And so anyway, these companies exist.
I like how Asmon went from stupid to financially illiterate. My words are not PC correct, but they're a little bit more subtle, because I'm not going to call someone stupid just because they don't have the knowledge. I mean, they're not informed, man. They don't know. And a lot of this has to do with the parents and the school systems not taking some responsibility and getting this taken care of. I mean, when you're failing your kids at both the parenting at home, teaching them financial and fiscal responsibility, and then proceeding to let it track over to school, but they learn nothing there. This is the problem. This is why I'm in favor of home economics being a required course that kids have to go in and they learn how to do these things. Now, let me be clear. Not every single thing in there is going to be the same thing. Like, how are you going to balance checkbook? It's going to be different from check to check to check for everybody in different states, because there's different banks that are out there, or credit unions. How are you going to teach them how to pay their bills or maintain fiscal responsibility? Well, you just break it down. I'm just thinking broader picture. The subtle little things, that's up for my government within the state to figure out. They've got to come up with that system.
As a parasite, okay? They are a parasite. They steal money from people. They are awful. And anyway, now we have a situation that they are affecting our freedom of speech on the internet. They are affecting our freedom of expression on the internet wholesale. And it's only going to get worse, because once these disgusting, fat, annoying...
Freedom of expression. Freedom of letting the you-know-what out of the where. Oh, boy.
Fucking, just Karens go and they realize, oh, it works one time. What do you think they're gonna do? They're gonna just say, oh, well, that's it. Well, I heard The View got canceled today, so after this, they're gonna be fucking bored. So
you can tell he's very angry about this, but this is the issue, is when you approach something from an angry point of view where you're just looking at it, you don't take into context everything that came down for it. Like, for example, Asmon probably should take some time to look into the policies that these companies had when they signed a contract with Valve. When it happened. Because Valve and Steam have been going on for a while now, and I'm sure they've had these contracts in place. So if you just did a little research, you probably find out they already had these policies in place. They just didn't know Valve and Steam were letting it happen, and the Karen group pointed them in the right direction. It sucks, but if it's already in their policies and not being changed, they're not really doing anything like violating freedom of expression by enforcing something they already had in a contract 10 years ago. Now, I could be wrong. If they change the policy on site because of the Karens, then yes, it's disgusting, and that is a violation of our freedom of speech and freedom of expression. But I don't have that kind of information. We don't know. We just don't.
So they're going to keep canceling and trying to bully these companies into doing even more things. And there's another not safe for work website. Oh, well, now there's another one. Oh, well, they shouldn't have to support porn. Yeah, they fucking should. The same as your internet provider should. The same as your electricity.
Asmon has a thing for large-chested women. So maybe he doesn't want his OnlyFans to get banned? I don't know. I don't think he has OnlyFans. Nah, I kid, but seriously, we know what he likes because it'll occasionally leak into his stream.
Provider should, the same as your water provider should. Can you imagine if they decide to turn off your fucking water or your electricity because you're going to a porn website that they don't like? It's ridiculous. And so I think that we need to have a degree of accountability here. These companies enjoy a massive privilege in this market. They are effectively totally free to do whatever the fuck they want. And that is going to, unfortunately, negatively affect everybody else. And to be honest with you guys, how many of you know somebody who has credit card debt? It probably already has negatively affected people. And so anyway, my video, what I'm talking about right now, is that I think we need to spread more awareness to this. More people need to know about this, because if it doesn't stop here, it's going to keep going into politics. It's going to keep going into different worldviews. It's going to go into religious stuff. It's going to go into every single aspect that you can possibly imagine, because these companies are gun shy and they're afraid of any degree of pushback. So the best thing that you can do, by the way, is if there's ever an instance where people are trying to push for a payment processor to not do something, these companies are afraid of pushback and they're afraid of backlash. That's what they're fundamentally afraid of. So if you want to make it to where they don't do these things and they don't make these changes, you have to be louder than these screeching banshee, harpy, siren Karens. That's what you have to.
The majority of us who just want to live our lives and keep it simple are the ones that are not speaking out. Now, how would we go about speaking out? You can post on Facebook, you can post on Twitter, but does that really get the job done? That brings awareness. No, the way to get the job done is to email your local government and whoever your representative is in that city, be they Democrat or Republican, whoever it is, and bring awareness to their eyes about this. This is where the real battle starts. This is where you want to get it done. Because once a state starts regulating it, other states start following suit. Let me give you a good example. COVID 2020. When COVID was starting to become a real thing, spreading around, and I'm a victim of COVID myself. I caught it 3 times. I was sick for 3 months because I had a pre-existing condition with asthma. My asthma came back in full force. I was well treated up until the point of 2020, and I had actually caught it in early December 2019. They couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. But let's get back to my point. COVID. Ohio was one of the first states and the first state to start implementing policies and systems in place to deal with COVID. The health businesses that will shut down, small businesses and other things. Now, everything they did wasn't perfect, but they were the first to take action. This is where it starts. The states need to take action because they're being brought to their attention by their constituents and informing their reps, hey, we don't like this. This is how it happens. You want to get something done, start at the state. Don't try to petition the federal government. Just don't. Do it state to state. Because if all states are following a similar trend, it's similar to the NFL, where it's a copycat league. You want to be a copycat state to the best of your ability in your laws and your setup. Copycat is what you want. However, I will tell you this, don't be Michigan. Michigan, the way they handled COVID was a clusterfuck. There's no other way to put it. It was a clusterfuck. But Ohio, they handled it well. They did well. And I still won't forget one time when I heard Trump saying, well, if I order the governors to give me their National Guards, they will, and I can activate them. Incorrect, because we had the governor here in Ohio literally state that they refused to do anything that the president would tell them. Because just like it is with the president has control over the armed forces, the governor has control over the National Guard. These are simple things that people need to understand. If you want to see something get done, petition your local government. Get regulations started at the state level. Start there. Don't do federal, do state. Get it there. Because what will happen is, Once the states start doing these things in progressive directions, the federal government will catch on. And since the same people representing you in your state government represent you in the federal government, that's where it starts to work. That's when it starts to be okay to get federal involved. Because the states, if they feel like they've done enough, it won't even find its way to the federal government. And the majority of the people who would, from those state representatives who would bring it to the federal government's attention, trying to get something passed, would have to face down the states who, well, what we've already got working is working for us at the state level. Why do we need to federalize this? Because they'll push back. This is how you get a functioning running government. You got to get it started at the lowest point and build it up. But you get some groups who just don't do that, like the Karens who went straight to the car companies. And then you've got the federal government that is pretty much doing nothing. So, I mean, it takes them months just to pass one bill, which, if you go back to the early 2000s, it wasn't like that. It was not like that. Things were getting passed at a regulatory rate, which was good. And things were getting done and changes were happening. I mean, we haven't had a functioning federal government since Bill Clinton. And that's saying a lot. Because Bill Clinton did the one thing that I wanted a president to do. Focus on the national debt. And that was back during a functioning Republican and Democratic Party worked together to lower the national debt by billions. So, at this point, when you're looking at what he's saying and what I think should be done, I still think regulation should happen starting at the state level. Because if you can get states to regulate it and they all have a collective system that is pretty much copycat and it works, federal government will follow in suit. And sometimes they won't even have to do anything because the states are already managing it.
You have to do that, and if you don't, they're going to be a lot louder than you are, and that's what's happened for the last 10 years. And luckily, now especially in the past 3 years, the majority of the internet has basically said, "Ho's mad, too bad," and we've decided to ignore them. However, they have found, as I said, that one weak link, which is the payment processors.
All right, I want to be clear about this. He's referring to the ones who aren't doing anything. That he believes people that aren't speaking up need to speak up and put some action out there. All right, let me do this in the most delicate way I can. The people that are screaming at the top of their lungs, "I don't like this, take it down, it offends me, let me have my safe space," which is the entire world, instead of just their own privacy of their own home, are mentally deranged. They have mental issues. There's something wrong with these particular individuals when they go around telling everybody else they have to accept their problems as everyone else's problems, when it's not everyone else's problem. Our governments across the world have basically, with modernization, begun to empower people with mental illness to get to say and do whatever they want, and then we cater to that. We cater. And that's not good. That's not good. Now, I'm not stating people that have their mental illness under control. Because there are some people that don't seek treatment. There's others that do get treatment. But let me be clear. The majority of the people that are out there doing this kind of stuff are people with some kind of issue going on in their brain where they just don't understand why everyone else doesn't see it their way. There's no logic, there's no normalcy, and I want to be clear, normality is something that is determined by the majority. And at this point, we're accepting mental illness as a majority. So it interferes with our ability to function as a working government, and it basically impairs our ability to think straight. Because the rest of us just go quiet, we go deaf tone. I have actively tried to seek change quite a bit. The Convention of States is something that I've been active in. Now, I wouldn't say vocally active as in I'm making donations or I'm going to their events where they're gathering. No, I don't do that kind of stuff. I will actively view their websites. If they have policies or something that they say they would like to see happen, which one of them that I significantly agree with is the term limits on senator and congressman. 4 years, 2 terms, just like the president. And I agree with it. I'm willing to send emails or petitions to my representatives to push this through. And you'll find that a lot of people, even the representatives themselves, are agreeing with this. Now, I will say it's majority Republicans and conservatives that are agreeing with this, not people on the extreme left, sadly. And even the Democrats, no, they want nothing to do with this. Because, I mean, you're going to term limit me? I won't be able to make my millions. Look, I'm going to state this when it comes to the federal government and our representatives in office. The ones that have been there for life terms of 10 or 20 plus years are now doing it not because they care about you. They're doing it because they know if the government goes belly up, they have their investments and millions and will survive, while everyone else is doomed. That's the simplest logic I can provide you with. That is a doomsday scenario. If the country goes belly up, they know they're fine because they have all the money. That's the problem with life-serving terms of representatives and senators, congressmen, whatever we want to call them. They should not be doing 10 plus years of service in the federal government. Even at the state level, they need to be, as we've said, laws in place to regulate them. They want to regulate the presidency, they want to regulate the Supreme Court, but they don't want to regulate the Congress and the Senate. That's just not right, man. You can't keep increasing the amount of justices in the Supreme Court just because you want to get a majority, just to force something to be considered law. You don't want to keep regulating the president and keep restricting him, or you want to place even more restrictions, but you can't do anything about congressmen and senators. I mean, we're at a fundamental balancing point here. So, as far as I'm willing to accept, regulating them too, yes, but they need to be on term limits. That's the regulation I'm seeking.
And again, they are awful, they're terrible, but they are a symptom and not the disease. We have to look at these payment processors, how much of a monopoly and everything that they control inside.
I believe Asmon's take on the mentally deranged is that he's trying to protect their freedom of speech, even if it's, mentally deranged. And I get that. The freedom of expression, the freedom of speech, they should be protected. But he wants to cut out the avenues in which they can go out and do the crazy stuff that they do. Limit them. Prevent them from being able to push those kinds of narratives like they did with the card companies. And that is good. That is actually good. I agree with him on that.
Side of any online transaction, inside of anything that you're doing in terms of money, and are they using that position in some way that is beneficial for everybody? Is this something that subverts people's expression, or is it something that hurts it? Well, it's pretty obvious, isn't it? And so I wanted to make this video, and I wanted to talk to you guys about it, because I feel like nobody else is saying anything. A lot of people might not understand this issue, or they might think, oh, well, it's just a rape game or something like that. Here's where they should draw the line. Is it illegal? If it's illegal, then yeah, of course they shouldn't give it.
There's nuances to the illegal stuff, because there were some laws in the past that existed that were just absolutely barbaric. Nowadays, I'd say we have laws in place that are more logical. Some are still stupid, but they are logical. So, as far as I'm saying, he is right. Is it illegal? But again, that we get back to the crux of the issue. Where do you regulate it? Federal or state? I mean, someone's got to regulate it.
Service. If it is, then yes, they should absolutely have to. It should be the exact same as an electricity company, as a phone company, as a internet company, as a water company, or anything else. The random debanking and removal of payment processing for certain people for certain ideological means is a massive problem, and it helps no one. And so anyway, except for them, obviously, because it gives them the power to censor things and effectively tell people what they're allowed to see on the internet, and effectively subvert the will of the people by acting as a pseudo-government because they're able to control this very small link in the pipeline. And so anyway, that's why I'm talking to you guys about this. I want everybody to be aware of this. I want people to see it, and I want you to be vigilant. And I can guarantee you, this is the worst thing. I can guarantee you that it's going to get worse. Because people, I don't think that there is enough awareness about this yet. I don't think that there's enough people talking about this. And I don't think people really understand this issue because there are still people who are afraid to speak out about it because they don't want to be seen as defending incest games. I have no problem defending incest games. I think that's totally fine. You want to play a fucking anime incest game on Steam? Go ahead. That's okay. Nobody's getting hurt because guess what? It's not real. Imagine that. A video game doesn't hurt real people, and it doesn't actually exist. So why is it?
This goes back all the way to the 90s, where they claimed video games were responsible for increased violence in kids. Again, I'm going to state this as I've stated many times. This comes down to the parents. Police the children. Monitor your kids. Do not just throw them in front of something because you don't want to deal with them.
That it's being regulated, and why is it that people are being told what they can and can't see, especially through this third party that shouldn't even be making these decisions to begin with? You want to talk about the brand for Visa or MasterCard? The only time I fucking hear about these companies is whenever they're being called into Congress to explain why they're trying to extort some mother of four out of $250,000.
This just goes back to the Zuckerberg thing where he's literally looking at Congress like he's a robot. Like he's a confused robot. And the thing is, these guys come in front of Congress and the Senate and they speak. But after they put them on the chopping block, what do they actually do to them? Do they fine them? Do they ban them? Do they regulate them? No, they just come in there because they want to yell at them to create a political thing where they're mocking and insulting them. And for crying out loud, they brought conservatives in on a council group to talk about regulations in universities with leftist extreme professors indoctrinating kids into political views that they don't fully understand. I mean, this is why they're still kids, dude. It's why even at 18, when you're considered an adult, I mean, actually, 18 is no longer even considered to be an adult. Some states have changed their laws to push it up to 21 years of age. To drink, to gamble, to smoke. You could originally smoke at 18 and gamble at 18. Now you can't in some states because they pushed it up to 21 years of age. Because they're finding in research, and the reason why these laws get pushed up like this is because of longitudinal studies which show that indoctrinated kids can't think for themselves between ages 18 to 25. At some point, the regulation age is going to be 25. It really is for these kids. You will be considered a kid until you are 25. But again, we come back to the crux of the issue. What's going on in the schools with just a simple home economics class to teach these kids some responsibility? Where's the parents? I mean, it's always everyone else's fault but the parent. It's the school, it's the business. It's never anybody else's fault. Parents, you gotta take the time to just explain this to your kids. But I'm by no means an expert. I'm not a parent. I'm not a parent. I don't have kids. I already know I'd make a terrible father.
Because of compounding interest and debt. It's outrageous. They're disgusting parasites, and I hope more people realize it, and we can actually push now a degree of regulation and control on these people, because they exist effectively. Again, guys, this is not a free market. Please do not say it's a free market. It is absolutely not a free market. The first thing that people who have control of a free market do, or have a majority share of a free market do, is they make sure that it's not free. And that's exactly what they've been doing, and that's exactly the problem. It's the fact that there are not a lot of other competitors. They do effectively control the entire market.
Visa and MasterCard have been around as long as I can remember. they do have a monopoly in that zone. And the concept of a free market is very nuanced. There's a direct meaning you can look at Google that explains it, but it's nuanced. Nuanced as in, what part of the market are you looking to get into? Where are you looking for? Because there's certain avenues within the free market, if you're an incredibly smart, business-minded, savvy individual who can invest properly, you've already entered the free market space and taken advantage of that opening that no one else saw. There have been tons of people over decades that have done that and made millions and billions. I wish I had been that intelligent. Sadly, I'm not. I wish.
And they can effectively use that to force their will onto everybody else. And that's exactly what's happened. So yes, Collective Shout is an annoying bunch of obnoxious, stupid Karens that nobody likes, probably not even themselves. That's why they're spending all day doing this. But, again, if you get rid of them, this is going to happen again.
If they parented, which I'm assuming this group is a bunch of concerned parents, if they actually police their kids, this wouldn't be an issue. Because here's the other problem. Parents think they have to parent other parents' kids. I know, that's a mouthful, a tongue twister. Parents have to parent other parents' kids. And it does happen. Where they have to be an indirect parent and think that they have to be an indirect parent to someone else who they think's not parenting. So what? Here's a good example. These situations with these groups of parents and moms mainly getting together and discussing issues is they think that the parenting situation that they're in is better than what they think other people are doing. So they think they need to parent for those parents. And on some levels they do. On some levels, because other parents aren't parenting, they think they need to parent. So they do. And that's where groups like this come into creation. It's just these small groups that become bigger and bigger because they develop a strict, I need to parent your parent because they're not parenting that kid. And it's a tongue twister in itself.
The real problem is the payment processors and the lack of regulation and accountability for what they're doing. So I don't really like this, oh, we can have their cake, you can have your cake and eat it too. Where
there was a funny thing with cake that a guy did. The guy who did Cash Cab became a comedian. You should see his bit on I can have my cake and eat it too. It's hilarious.
oh, well, these people, they don't get regulated at all, but they can regulate everybody else and decide whatever, whatever they accept and whatever they don't accept. This is not something as simple as, oh, well, baking a cake or whatever. This is a categorical rule that companies that have a complete monopoly inside of a market are exercising collectively. When companies act collectively and they behave in one specific way, that is not, again, in accordance with the law. They are making their own laws, and they are not behaving as in a free market. They are acting like a cartel. They're colluding, and more people need to know about it. And in my opinion, I think there needs to be laws against it. I wanted to make this video and talk to you guys about it because I think not enough people know. But now you know. Visa and MasterCard can suck a fucking dick, and anybody that supports them is already a dick sucker, so I don't need to say.
I'm hoping he doesn't mean people that support them that use their services. Because it's hard for me to believe Asmongold, who's a millionaire, mind you, doesn't have a bank account with a debit card. And that debit card is linked to either Visa or MasterCard. So I hope he's not insulting us, card holders, who use debit cards through our banks. But, I mean, I'd be hurt if he was. I'd be hurt. Not really. But seriously, I don't think people who support them indirectly are responsible. But if you're supporting them directly, that's a problem.
Say that. Anyway, guys, thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Go ahead and I had to take my dad to a fucking cancer appointment today. And so I was busy, which, by the way, oh my god. Just before I end the video, wow, no wonder they haven't cured cancer yet. This is the nicest fucking building I've ever seen in my life. Oh my god, I've been in Hilton hotels that are less classy than this cancer facility. Oh my god, They're never curing that shit. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. But anyway, that's...
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and bring up a drastic argument real quick. The idea that cancer and other diseases aren't being cured because it would prevent the pharmacies from making money if they were cured is very incorrect. Very incorrect. There is a doctor called... there's a doctor on YouTube that you can watch. He is, I believe it's Dr. Mike. Let me see here. Yeah, Dr. Mike. Watch some of his videos on the idea that pharmaceutical companies are not going to make any money because of a cure, when that's not true. Pharmaceutical companies don't focus on developing cures. They focus on treating symptoms. That's just what they are existing for. They exist to help treat symptoms, while larger CDC and other federally run programs focus on curing the disease, or universities. Pharmaceuticals don't do that. That's why some people have to learn their lesson when they develop a product and then they try to sell it and market it. And the first place they go is the pharmaceutical companies. And this pharmaceutical company will look at it and go, yeah, we're going to shelve that. We'll buy it from you, but we're going to shelve it, because they won't make any money off that. Because you're curing a problem and not treating the symptom. Pharmaceuticals like to treat symptoms. They are not responsible for cures or vaccines in place that are stopping the overall disease, because they didn't develop it. They were part of a group that did join the development team, but there's doctors who are behind that in hospitals, universities, things like that. That's how I view it. I could be wrong. Like I said, I'll admit if I'm wrong, but I don't think pharmaceutical companies are preventing the cure for cancer. I don't see it that way. All right, well, that was Asmongold's video.
Hey there everyone, if you enjoyed this content, like and subscribe, and comment down below. Thanks again.